So what's the big problem with wealth creation? How do people like us, who didn't inherit a boatload of money, who are investing and building wealth from our own blood, sweat and tears, how do we invest in a way that gives us remarkable results and become financially free before retirement age? I don't know about you, but I am sick of hearing from wealth gurus and experts who don't walk their own talk and prescribe strategies that are a one-size-fits-all approach. For self-made people like you and me, I'm here to tell you that you don't need to be superhuman or already wealthy to reach financial freedom earlier than 65. My name is Salena Kulkarni and I am a passionate investor, but with a difference. I spend half my time running a community for wealthy entrepreneurs looking to reach financial freedom in 3 to 5 years using exclusive real estate deals that deliver consistent, predictable cash flow. The other half of my time, I support motivated young adults who want to get started on their wealth building journeys. I've been a chartered accountant and investor in the trenches for over 25 years, but I didn't come from money. So I want to help those who want to be self-made, master the fundamentals and fast track their financial freedom. I've had all the cuts and bruises in the past, and now in this podcast, I want to share real life experiences on what has worked, what hasn't worked, and how you can take action that will set you apart from 99% of other investors so that you can get the results you want faster.
I want to talk about 3 key metrics that are really useful to review at the beginning of every year. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is I'm going through a planning process right now where I'm working with my individual high net worth clients to do some preparation for 2024. And it occurred to me that there's probably some key ideas in that planning that I can share with you guys that will actually help you get off on the right foot, if you like. One of the things I know to be true is that if you feel or see no progress, it's really easy to get disheartened. And there are a number of, if you like, key performance indicators, key measurements that I like to get my members and my private clients to kind of measure, not too frequently, but frequently enough so that they can see some movement. But if you're really just at the beginning of your wealth building journey and you're trying to kind of get some positive reinforcement, if you like, that you're heading in the right direction, then I think it's there's probably 2 or 3 metrics out of the 6 or 7 that I advocate that are really useful for you guys to just kind of look at the beginning of each year and kind of get a sense of movement and progress. One of the things about wealth is that the numbers move very slowly. And so what we want to do is we don't want to get caught in this, obsession of number one, focusing, what's in our bank account, or just focusing on our net worth, meaning that, our total assets minus our total debts, because those 2 metrics by themselves only give a very one-dimensional view of how we're progressing. So let me kind of give you some insights into the dashboard that I use with people and, which ones I think I would pull out to share with you guys. So the first thing that I get people to kind of measure is what I call Inkosi. So Inkosi is the Zulu word for tribal leader, and I've talked about this in a number of other podcasts, but essentially it is a measure of what percentage of your goal have you achieved. So let's say, for example, your goal is to achieve $100,000 in passive income, and you have currently got assets that generate $34,000, then you are at 34%. Your Inkosi is at 34,000 and can also be reflected as 34%. Now, one of the things that will make you feel great each year is to see that number go up. But if you're at the start of your journey, that may not be a particularly useful metric, because perhaps at the start of your journey, you're in stage 1 of your wealth building journey, which is all about build capital and less focused on passive income. So that takes us to the second metric that I get people to measure, which is net investment capital. Now, one of the things that we do, especially here in Australia, is we add in the value of our home to our net worth. Now, unless your intention is to use your home in some capacity to generate income, I say to some degree that is a vanity metric, and net investment capital is really a more useful measure. And really what that requires you to do is to take out all of your personal assets that you keep for pleasure that don't necessarily, qualify as an investment. And that would include taking out your home. So whatever's like, let's just say, for example, you have an overall net worth of $2 million, but your house, in terms of the equity that you have in it, is worth $1 million, then you would subtract that to say, well, my net investment capital is actually only $1 million, not the $2 million. That is a much more useful number to track in terms of how good are you at allocating some of your premium income to go into your investing. And so that, I do think, is a useful measure to be thinking about at the beginning of every financial year, or every calendar year, in fact, I think is probably the better way to look at it. The next one is your average net return on investment. So when you are in, say, for example, your growth mode, perhaps your average net return on investment would be a reference to how much your net worth grew over the last 12 months divided by the value of those assets. This is something that as you move along, you might focus on combining your cash with your capital return. But if you're thinking about what's my net return on investment, really what you're saying is, of the capital that you've got invested, how much growth do you get in the form of capital growth or in the form of income stream? That's really what you're looking at there. So for example, and I'm looking at the this particular one in front of me here, if the income from investments, as I gave in the example earlier, was say $34,000 and your net investing capital is $1.4 million, then you're getting 2.31% in terms of average net return on investment. The next metric that I think is really useful to really focus on, and this is actually probably the universal metric or KPI that I think is worth looking at, is what I call lifestyle burn rate. I've spoken about this extensively in past podcasts, but essentially it helps you understand of the income that flows into your household, how much of it do you spend on maintaining your lifestyle. So for example, if your total household income was, say, $200,000, if you're bringing in after tax $200,000 into your household each year, and, by the time you add up all of your debt repayments and holidays and entertainment, and it came to, say, $120,000, then you would argue that you have a lifestyle burn rate of roughly 60%. Now, that's actually pretty good for most households. Depending on your attitudes to spending and money, this is one which, we could go really deep on, but essentially the trap that you want to avoid is believing that as your income goes up, that you deserve to spend more. There's no problem with spending more money if it's done proactively. Like if you sit down at the beginning of this year and you go, right, we know we're going to earn a little bit more this year. We know that our earnings are going to be roughly this, and we want to allocate this amount to our lifestyle. And we're happy to maintain a lifestyle burn rate of whatever, 60%, 50%, 80%, whatever feels comfortable to you. Getting that tension right between spending all your money in the now and really neglecting your future self versus starving your lifestyle now and thinking only of your future self is really like a spectrum. And part of the journey around wealth building is getting comfortable around where you sit. I think in my own journey, our lifestyle burn rate was, scarily low in our earlier years. It's probably, a bit more modest now. I don't think we're particularly extravagant people, but, there's a lot of outflows when you have a large portfolio of assets. So, sometimes those boundaries blur. But in terms of lifestyle burn rate, I'm always very confident that, ours sits roughly at the 50% mark. Now, I'm not suggesting, by the way, that you aspire to that. What I am suggesting is that if you are a couple running a household and you have the capacity to live off one income and save the other, then, that's the sort of thing you want to be striving for. Obviously, if there's a massive discrepancy there, maybe that's not possible. But what you do want to do at the beginning of every year is go, right, what did we achieve last year? We earned this much in this calendar year, and therefore we want to, and we can see that we've spent whatever, let's say in this example, 60%. And this year we want to strive to make it 55%. Or maybe you say, no, we're going to be earning a bit more this year. We want to keep it at 60%. So that's kind of the reflection piece again, if you like, where you're proactively planning for what you want that lifestyle burn rate to be. The next one is around gearing. Now, again, this is not a metric that moves particularly fast, but you always want to be saying, given the value of assets that I have, and so that's coming back to that net investment capital, how much debt do we have? Now, in the case of those people who have large mortgages, this is the instance where you would say, what is my overall gearing? Meaning, if I include the house and then I, incorporate any mortgage related to the house, what percentage of my assets are, geared, meaning, held in debt? And the reason that this is really valuable is as your wealth grows, what you want to see is that gradually moving down. When you're in your early years of investing, you can afford to be a little more aggressive. And, most people, when they're starting out, they want to borrow as much as possible. You want to always be thinking about the risk associated with that. And as you age and as you get into, more advanced strategies, you want to be constantly looking at that from a risk perspective. Because if you end up in a situation like today where we're in a very high interest rate environment, it is very useful to actually, not only know that you can cope with the interest repayments, but also that you're not heavily geared. There's a great deal of comfort in that, because in the event that you do have to sell an asset or, manage your cash flow, you can do that. You have the liberty of doing that. If you're heavily geared and you've got high interest repayments, that is a very difficult thing to manage. The next thing and final KPI that I want to mention today is what I call the wealth health quotient. This is something that I have done an entire podcast episode on in the past. It's a concept that came from The Millionaire Next Door. I absolutely love it because it's the great equalizer. What it does is it says, given the income that you've had, and assuming you've had incremental increases over time, given your age, how well or how effectively have you converted that income into assets or wealth? So the best way to describe this is that if you're earning really poor money, you can still have a very high health wealth quotient. In contrast to, say, for example, a surgeon who might be earning $1 million per annum, but has done a terrible job of converting his premium income into assets or investments. And so he has a pretty poor wealth health quotient. So essentially the formula, which I have modified slightly for Australian audiences just because the real estate market here has disproportionately performed in contrast to many other countries, is your gross household income multiplied by your average household age. So your gross household income before tax multiplied by your average household age of the couple. So if you're a couple and one of you is 48 and one of you is 50, then the average is 49. So it's the gross household income multiplied by 49 divided by 5. Now that formula gives you some indication of what your net worth should be given your age and your current income. Now, people will have all sorts of protests around, what if I've only been earning that for a long time and so forth? And please go back to my original podcast episode and have a look at that. But essentially, it's just a barometer. That's the way to think of it. It's just a barometer for giving you a ballpark estimate of what you should be worth given your age and the income that you've had. Now, if your net worth is at that number, meaning it's 1 times that number, then you're going okay. If your actual net worth is 2 times or 3 times that number, you are going phenomenal. It means you've done a really good job of converting that premium income into wealth. If you are below 1, and I'm just going to give an example here. Let's say you've got a formula which spits out that you should be worth $1 million and your actual net worth is only $500,000, then your wealth health quotient is only half, meaning it's only half of what that formula spat out. So that means you need to give this some attention. You need to do some work. So guys, they're the 5 key KPIs I wanted to mention today. There's obviously some others, but the 2 that I highly encourage you to look at as part of your, beginning of the calendar year, setting up some expectations for the year are your net investment capital and maybe your lifestyle burn rate. I'm going to highlight those two as the key ones to focus on, because you should see your net investment capital grow through the year, and you should see that you've either hit or, improved on your lifestyle burn rate. So the best thing to do as a starting point is look at what you were at the beginning of the prior calendar year. And if you have the capacity to go back over 2, 3, 4, 5 years and actually track it, you should be feeling better and better and better about this stuff, because essentially you either want to maintain a certain lifestyle burn rate but see your net investment capital grow, or you want to see your lifestyle burn rate improve, or if your lifestyle burn rate has deteriorated, you want to actually understand why. So guys, I hope this has been a useful episode. The big takeaway that I want to really kind of emphasize here is that, and this unfortunately comes from a place that has nothing to do with wealth, or not unfortunately, it comes from no place wealth related. But my old yoga teacher used to say to me that where attention goes, energy flows. So if we give some attention to measuring and tracking performance, constantly recalibrating what we're doing, our actions, our thoughts, our behaviours, then we're bound to see improvement. Till next time, take care.
If you're feeling frustrated that despite doing everything right in the property investing playbook and you're no closer to financial freedom, then head on over to incosiwealth.com to learn more about how you can use alternative investments to catapult your investing income and blend strategies to shave decades off your timeline to financial freedom. See you on the next episode.